Been the CMO at Host for 2 years. I have built this team from the ground up with a focus on demand gen for the first year, which meant I spent the majority of my first year at Host hanging out with finance, which is not so fun when you're a marketer, but it helps me now to have a better relationship, kind of like what Jay was talking about. So let's talk about yesterday's funnel versus today's funnel. So Jay talked about this, and we were joking at dinner last night. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna blow up your funnel tomorrow on stage. So that traditional funnel on your left side, really that net new name, MQL, straight down the line, now has changed. And when you talk about brand metrics and how brand and anything that's fluffy, that doesn't show ROI, like how does that actually impact the funnel? So if you look at this, we talk about reach. I don't talk about net new names anymore. I don't talk about MQLs. I talk about reach. How many people are actually interacting with us and what are they doing? Then we talk about qualified leads, right? So we use Visible and we use a couple other technologies so we can see from organic search how many leads are actually coming in. People that are actually Googling us and they want to talk to us. And we actually show that to the field. So the field can see it. And they're like, oh wow, this person is a little bit extra interested because they were doing their own homework. Then we talk about meetings, because that's pretty concrete, right? That's when a salesperson actually talks to somebody. So that's an easy metric to show. And we talk about opportunities, what actually comes out of that from a pipeline perspective. Talk about one business, I think Jay mentioned it, and Thad, you did, like, unless you're talking about revenue, it doesn't matter. And then the new thing around customer experience is really talking about influencers, which are your happy customers. So I've made a huge investment in customer marketing and customer advocacy, so I can get those stories and I can turn them into an extended sales force. So that's the new funnel. And there's this, when you talk to finance, they are still in this leads mentality, right? Marketing equates leads. How many leads are there? And we have to switch it to really start talking about reach. And that's a hard conversation to have. Part of the reason, because marketing doesn't have a finance background and marketing can't explain it. And we can't explain anything beyond clicks and tweets and awareness and all those things that we like talking about. So how do you actually connect the two to be able to have the conversation so that when finance asks me if I gave you $1, what would you spend it on? The easy answer isn't, oh, more demand gen programs, right? I can stand up and say, look, we don't have a demand gen problem, we have an awareness problem, and here's what I'm gonna go spend it on. And marketing should be held accountable for it, right? I have a metric around awareness, and I take it out of my CPL. When I talk about my CPL, it's a program spend, but I also have a separate metric which is around awareness, because it's there's lag, there's a whole bunch of other things that go into that. It's not the same measurement. Make sense? Yeah? Okay. So my old CFO did. So I just got a new CFO in January, great guy. Trying real hard. But he hasn't been to the school of Christelle on demand gen and marketing. So we're he's starting to understand it. Funny story, we had a board meeting and we just got bought by a private equity firm. So when you talked about zero-based budgeting, I was like, yeah, I know that. It's a different conversation that you have to have around it. So we were in a meeting, and so I'm 9 for 9 walking into board meetings at Host and getting more money, whether I've asked for it or not, because of the power of the metrics that we've put together. So I walk in, I talk about all this stuff. I say we have a conversion problem in the middle of the funnel, and I need more awareness dollars. And I mean, it was a half-hour rat hole onto awareness. I mean, his definition of awareness is a billboard on 101. I'm like, no, I'm not Domo. I can't spend that kind of money. I'm not going to go do that. I'm not frivolous with the money that you give me. Awareness are things like interstitial display. It's taking over CFO.com. It's doing things digitally that drive awareness. And I really don't care about the conversion rate to come to the website. What I care about is the impression, and hope that the content that I put out there is actually going to be relevant enough that it's going to stick in their minds and they're going to come back. And that's very different than a direct line from I do an ad, click, contact us form. right? So there's a lag that happens. So that's the conversation we're starting to have now. Everybody else around the table got it except for the CFO, right? Because it's been the same exact stuff. He's starting to get it now. When we went to the board, I prepped him enough that he could have that conversation, and we ended up getting the money, right? So it's a journey you have to be on with your CFO. So these are the metrics. I think I talked a little bit about it, right? Reach, and this is increase in web traffic. Another fun example, every week we look at these same metrics, and it's like watching water boil, but I do it. We watch website traffic go up and go down every single week, right? And it goes down and panic ensues. And I'm like, okay, but year over year, we're up 20%. Like, calm down, it's fine. But it's this, this reactive, this reaction that CFOs have when they see a number go down, right? And now he understands that that's going to fluctuate, and we're going to look at it over a quarter basis. And it's things like that. And in the moment, I get annoyed, but it's because he doesn't know, right? You have to understand that they don't know, and they probably don't have a marketing background. Okay. So understanding performance two ways. So we look at the world two different ways. So there's the cohort analysis way, and there's the milestone analysis. So I'll start with milestone first because it's easier. So milestone to me, it's, you're standing on a freeway at an exit ramp, and someone's literally counting the cars go by, right? So it's a quick and dirty back of the envelope. How many net new names do I add? How many convert to MQL? Blah, 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 straight line down. And that's good for quick and dirty analysis, but then there's also waterfall analysis, and that's the cohort piece of it. And that involves time. And if you're an enterprise, if you're selling enterprise software, you could have a sales cycle that's 15 days, you could have a sales cycle that's 9 months, you could have a sales cycle that's 2 years. And you have to take that into consideration when you're talking about budgeting for next year. Why? Because certain things take time to bake. And if you don't have that in your analysis, then you are going to create a false positive or maybe even a false negative on how you're doing for the rest of the year. Does that make sense? Right? So marketing attends 3 events in a month, gets a big batch of net new names, but there's no MQL and no pipeline after 2 weeks. Panic ensues. You spent all this money on these events and there's no return. Well, those are going to take a while to bake, right? The second scenario, sales development does a meeting, makes a blitz, huge traffic, huge increase in meetings, and then that doesn't turn into pipeline for another 2 quarters, right? If you're an enterprise software firm, that's typically what happens. So you have to have this time-based element to the analysis that you do.